Hello, always a pleasure to have you join us on platform. I'm Ruth Aguele. The legislature is an important arm of government, and strengthening the rule of law has to be approached not only by focusing on the application of norms and procedures. There must also be emphasis on the fundamental role of protecting the rights of citizens and advancing inclusiveness. This is why lawmakers are being guided on legislative procedures before duly inducted as legislators. And the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILDS, is the only body charged with the statutory responsibility of building the capacity of the legislature and other institutions of democracy in Nigeria. Now, the institute was established by the Legislative Studies Act in 2011 by former President Goodluck Jonathan, following the passage of the bill by the Senate and the House of Representatives. With high expectations from Nigerians for the 10th Assembly, the big picture and the challenge therein lies ahead of the 469 lawmakers comprising 109 senators and 360 members of the House of Representatives. Their legislative agenda is being awaited. No doubt, the quality of leadership of the 10th Assembly depends largely on the requisite research and analytical support provided by the Institute. So you ask, what is the level of preparedness of the 10th Assembly, both at the state and national assemblies level? Our focus on platform is deepening Nigeria's democracy through legislature. And our guest is Professor Abubakar Suleiman, the Director General, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies. Thank you so much for joining us, Prof, on platform.
Thank you. How is work going?
Great. And how is yours?
We are coping.
Okay, you tell us about all that coping very shortly. But before we introduce our panelists, we'll take you through a bit of Prof's profile. Now, prior to his appointment as DG, he served at various levels of government, culminating in his appointment as the Minister for National Planning and Deputy Chairman, National Planning Commission by former President Goodluck Jonathan. He also served as the Deputy Chairman, Nigeria Economic Council, and Chairman, Transition Technical Subcommittee, responsible for managing the transition between the government of former President Jonathan and that of the immediate past President Muhammadu Buhari. That was in 2015. Professor Suleiman has widely researched, published and delivered papers at various high-level conferences and capacity development activities, both in Nigeria and internationally. He holds a BSc degree in political sciences and master's in international and strategic studies and PhD in international relations. And let's quickly introduce our panelists. We have our National Assembly correspondent, Ignatius Onkwo. Ignatius, good to have you on platform. This is your first time on platform.
My pleasure, Ruth. Yeah, actually.
I'm pleased to have you.
My pleasure.
All right, Prof. Deepening Nigeria's democracy through legislature says a lot, you know, from the caption. Nigeria's democracy, you agree with me, has come of age. But when they say democracy is for the people, by the people, and of the people, of course, have a role to play to elect leaders that will serve them. And when these people are being elected to serve, there's certain criteria that is expected of them. And that is where you also come in to ensure that quality leadership is guaranteed. We're painting a picture now for our legislators, and you, talking about the Institute, have played a very strategic role in preparing these legislators to ensure that they deliver, you know, to Nigerians according to what Nigerians are expecting. The whole narrative, you know, paints a very big picture and can be daunting. But tell us, what are the expectations looking at the 10th National Assembly?
Thank you very much. And let me thank the panelists too, who has been doing a wonderful job at the National Assembly level.
Thank you, DG.
You see, one thing that is very important and that we need to realize is the fact that without the legislature, there's no democracy.
Yes.
It's normal, people talk about the three arms of government. You talk of the executive, you talk of the judiciary, you talk of the legislature. But out of these three arms, it's only the legislature that symbolizes democracy. is only the legislature that, epitomizes democracy. Executive, a president could garner results, as we have it now, from 13 states, from 14 states, of 36 states. A governor could become a governor from one senatorial district. Forget about the issue of litigation. And the same thing applies to chairman of a local government. But when it comes to that hollow chamber, where you see the people's representatives, the legislature, is the only chamber that you see every segment of the society represented, be it at the state level or at the national level. So without the legislature, there's no democracy. And that is why every time you see the military, we don't pray for that again in Nigeria. Where any time you see them, coming to power, the only casualty of the three arms of government is the legislature, because that is only one that's, that's the only signpost of democracy. So without the legislature, therefore, there is no democracy. And that is why, if actually we want to sustain a government of the people, listen to your language now, for the people and by the people and for the people, then the legislature must not only exist, it must be seen to be existing. In other words, we must strengthen the capacity of the legislature. We must give them all the wherewithal to work, so that they can speak for the people, they can serve the people, they can govern for the people. So in terms of parity, in terms of equilibrium, they are not at par with the three arms of government. And that is why, if there must be something we should do for the Nigerian legislature, is constant training and retraining. We are transforming, and we are evolving, and we are developing, improving on what we used to have before. Then the kudos go to the Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, among other factors.
And that's why I asked Prof, just before Ignatius come in, I said the picture for the 10th Assembly, because you have played a very strategic role in preparing this 10th Assembly, both state and national level. So what is the level of preparedness?
I wouldn't want to go to the picture, but I have to go to the history, the genesis, where we're coming from. And where we're coming from in terms of the history of Nigerian, legislature, the intercourse between Nigerian legislatures and our institute, and that will now give a clear picture of what we should expect. Our concentration before now has been on the parliament at the center. If you want to talk about the distinction, what has changed in our operations as an institute, we have, most times it has been the ECOWAS sub-region, it has been the center, the Senate, induction, the training. But in the last 4 years, we have now permeated down to the subnational parliament. For instance, we have induction for the 10th National Assembly members, the House of Rep and the Senate. This time around in collaboration with National Assembly management. But while the induction is ongoing, I use the word ongoing because it's a continuous process. While the induction is ongoing, could you believe that as we are doing for the National Assembly, we are doing the same thing for state assemblies? As I'm talking to you, we just ended out of the Southwest states, Lagos State, Oyo State, Ondo State. We've had for the Akwa Ibom, we've had for Niger State, and it's an ongoing thing, because we discover, for instance, that this 10th Assembly, majority of the elected members are strangers. I mean the word.
I was going to say
they are new members. In Senate, for instance, more than 70% of them are just coming for the first time.
Yes.
You see, when you talk of legislative business, it's a specialized business. Even if you are knowledgeable, you are a professor, you are an engineer, you are a lawyer, you must learn it. You must learn the rudiment of legislation.
Okay.
You must learn it. Not to talk of, a purely newcomer to the system. So we need to scale up our induction process and training process.
Now, Prof, actually we've seen what the National Institute for Legislative Studies has been doing at the national level. Like you did say, it's a public notice that they've been doing quite well. But out of the state assemblies, you and I know that this time we could say yes, they've spread their tentacles more further. But then, there are, like, if you come to some regions, are you trying to tell us that you make sure that all the state assemblies in that region will receive this kind of capacity training and this kind of attention you're giving to one assembly or the other? Are we sure that all of them will receive this attention?
You see, the institute is there to serve Nigerian parliament. And the institute is there to enhance the capacity of Nigerian parliament. When I say Nigerian parliament or parliamentarians, we're not even talking about the parliamentarians alone. We're even talking about the parliamentary staff, both at the national, states, the local government level, and even to the ECOWAS region. Now, and it's the only statutory body in this country established by an act of parliament to perform that function. Just like a university. You can't say because university is there and to enhance the capacity of your student, and you say you know how to approach the university, you don't pay. The point I'm making, we have some training that are conducted on the basis of needs of our clients. Are we together, please?
Yes.
Then we have training that are conducted on the basis of supply. Some state knows we are existing. They approach us, we conduct training for them.
Okay.
In some instances, we approach them. Like the induction we are talking about, training for the state assembly. We have what to call about 17 partner states. Those 17 partner states, they are partner states that we work with in collaboration with our donor partner, the CAS, the Conrad Adenauer,
yes,
a German-based, development partner. Those 17 states were giving them automatic training for free.
But DG, sort of cutting short, lest I forget. Now, what is the criteria for these 17 selected state assemblies?
Now, when it comes to criteria, the criteria at time when you have an engagement or an understanding with a donor agency, it's not just for us as an institute to determine the criteria only. The donor agency too has some criteria they put in place. For instance, where they feel they are insecure, they will not want us to go there. We don't respect.
Okay.
Most states, for instance, from the Northeast, they are not there. Most states, again, from Northwest, they are not involved. On the basis of insecurity, the advanced democracies or our people outside there, the way they perceive things, not the way we perceive things. So I wouldn't want to go into, but one of the criteria is this issue of security. It's a factor that we into. But again, let me go into one thing, fundamental. In the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, for instance, the governor of Niger State, the governor-elect of Niger State, before he now became a governor, just give me a call. He gave me a call and said, DG, please, I want you to train my people. Within 3 days, we are there to put them through. The same thing applied to our Akwa Ibom State, speaker, then about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So the point I'm making is that at times, states invite us, having seen our capacity, having seen the fact that we have the wherewithal. They do invite us to do it. In some instances, we write to them that we have all these kind of, modules on ground, on the issue of public account, on the issue of legislative procedures and practices, on the questions of oversight.
Okay.
So it all depends. But the point I'm making is that what we have now, in terms of success story at the institute, vis-a-vis states capacity building, is phenomenal in nature.
Prof, from what you're saying, I could just feel the passion, you're exuding when it comes to getting the job done.
When you get fulfillment, you'll be
okay. But I want you to tell us if that's the same passion you're getting from these legislators. If you're telling us now that it's a voluntary process and, states can also apply, for their legislators to be trained, what level of passion have you seen from this 10th assembly, talking for the state and the national now?
It's still ongoing. The platform
the party is still ongoing.
They are still there.
That's what I'm asking.
Participation was overwhelming. It was wonderful.
Okay, that's right.
I only made a remark about my states.
Okay.
It's about my state.
Kwara State.
Kwara State.
Okay.
So I didn't say, Bauchi, good. They are doing very well.
That's why you're telling us, because I want you to tell us the level of passion, Prof.
The only thing I'm saying is that about my state,
okay,
I only commented about my state, appealing to the Speaker of Bauchi State, who is the Speaker with the Chairman of the Conference of Speakers, to speak to the Speaker of Kwara State, which is my own state, to show keen interest as they are doing in capacity building. Because I know the Kwara State parliaments, they are almost all of them, only few of them claim to be ranking. The attendance, wonderful. I'm just saying, out of my patriotism for my state, so how I wish my state is here.
Now, you know why I asked the question, Prof? You mentioned the newly elected members or legislators, if you want to put it that way, and getting them acquainted to how bills are drafted, motions are drafted, the debate has been done, the process of bill making and all of that can be daunting if they're new to the system of legislature. So how, daunting has that been for the institute, in getting them abreast with all the legislative procedures? You see,
the fact remains that one training workshop is not enough to adequately capture the whole essence of getting them inducted. It's not enough. But at least it's an opportunity for them to be exposed to the expectations, to the rudiments, passage of bills. You understand? Lawmaking, oversights, related issues, public account related matter, budgeting process. These are key. What does a maize stand for? You understand? If you carry a maize in the house, what does it stand for? There are certain the standing order. There are certain ethics, parliamentary ethics. So these are basic.
Yes.
After the basic rudiments, which is the plenary, knowledge you need to acquire before you get into the business. There are other couples of, training workshop we have outlined subsequently that we are going to put them through. When I talk about the 17 partner states, these 17 partner states, after this induction, which we hope we may end between now and July, hopefully, we have scheduled other training for them, for those 17 states.
Okay.
The Niger State governor now is putting pressure on me again to come for another training in Niger State, Mina. The same thing for other states too. We're just starting. It's a flow rate. You understand? Because what we are doing now is for them to go into the business first. After going, they go on recess. After recess, they come back.
Yes.
Then we start other training, activity for them. So one training, one induction is not enough. For instance, we had training, we had induction for the National Assembly members, the Senate and the Rep. Again, we are going to have retreats for all chairmen of committees after they have been constituted.
Yes.
We are going to have training for chairmen and vice chairmen of committees. After that, we need to pick on committees. There are some key standing committee that they are key. You see, other committee comes as you progress. Standing committee, they are there. You talk of public account, for instance, in standing committees. Just have to. So all those committees, we have outlined settings, we have scheduled workshop, training for them. Training for the committee, training for the clerks, and training for the chairman. Most importantly, and this is very key, is that our institute, subject to the approval of our governing council, is commencing another set of training for all House of Rep members and senators, especially the new members. And that might take place between now and October. What we had now is an induction where you see 200 and something in the class. But what we are going to have now is a segmented induction where we're going to have just 50, for instance, in a class. And that might take them a week. It's going to be a rigorous exercise that we are going to put them through because the turnover rate is so high and we can't avoid to go back to where we're coming from. The new president is so desirous of transformation and change. We have so many fundamental issues we need to address. The only kickstarting force is the legislature. And where they lack in the knowledge, and they don't even have the knowledge of the unfinished business by the next assembly, it will slow down the pace of work by Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We don't want that to happen. Okay. So we want to be at pace. The more the brain is, the more we want to catch up with the pace. But I hope with the new leadership coming on board that our institute will get all the resources to do this. But we are committed, we are determined to do it.
Prof, actually, you've explained the three major functions of the legislature in this case. And like you did say, I don't know, there are quite some schools of thought that believe that your institute is laying more emphasis on lawmaking, you know. Well, in as much as yes, but for people like us who attend some of these trainings, we know that yes, it's not just the way they say it. But do you think with what you've put in place, capacity training for bill drafting, because sometimes you begin to wonder why there shouldn't be cases where a bill will go to the president and the president will send it back because of poor drafting, which we've seen quite a number of bills in the Senate, Ninth Assembly. With the proposals you're putting in place, are we expecting less of this kind of rejection? Instead, let the rejection come from the content of the bill, from the provisions of the bill. Let it not come from drafting processes. Let it not come from conflict with the Constitution, which are basic prerequisites for passing laws passing bills into law. So, are we expecting this bill? Is it taking more way to address this?
You see, I love your question, and I love the question because you see, the 8th Assembly suffered this kind of setback on account of not taking cognizance.
The 8th or the 9th now?
The 8th.
I know what I'm saying. The 8th Assembly.
So
he said 9, but I think it's 8th Assembly.
No, the 9th Assembly had quite some of them, but mostly in the 8th Assembly
have made some remarkable, improvement. You know, the mileage is so wide that the numbers of a central bill is higher than what we had
in the past.
Since 1999, yes.
So I think it's the 8th Assembly that had that setback. And we discover, in our institute, we did some study on why must Mr. President setback all these bills? Why are they not assented to? And we discover that some bills, as I said, you can talk of poor quality of draftings. That is not our own fault, because no senator or rep member is under any compulsion to defer to us in drafting bills or motion. No. Some people use their aides to do it. Some use their consultant to do it. The lawyers are making money out of it. But by law, we are the only statutory body.
Exactly. So
you can defer to us to do it for you for free. But some still believe they have some consultant. So if you talk of poor drafting, it's not to names. We are not to be blamed for that. And I don't want to go into that extent. But again, we discover that some of the bills that were not assented to, there are some political variables. On the 8th Assembly, we know the kind of friction, imbroglio, between the executive
and the legislature.
Then, I wouldn't want to go into that detail again. That is number one. Number two, some bills, in the course of trying to moot a bill or a process of lawmaking, we discovered that some did not take into consideration the extant rules. The extant law already existed.
Exactly.
So by the time you now send it to Mr. President for asset, and it's taken to the Ministry of Justice for scrutiny, they discover that such a bill is in conflict with another extent. So they have to turn it back. So that is why it is always good. And I want to appeal to this 10th Assembly member to maximize, utilize effectively, maximally the institute. We have what it takes. When you have an institute and you want to defer to some consortium, some agbero, people there, you have the institute, you want to contract training, to some people. You have the institute, National Assembly, management want to give training to some people up there. You have the institute want to give exams. It doesn't make any sense. We have the capacity, we have the resources, we have the wherewithal, we have the experience, we have the library, equipped library that could manage the 469 members of the National Assembly and the 36 members, House of Assembly, in the various states. So our appeal is that we are there, we are funded, we have the wherewithal, we have the donor agents that partner with us to get things done so that we can get the best for our people in this country. So I appeal. Next Assembly, they've done very well, especially the leadership. I want to appeal to the Assembly that we are there to serve you. And to serve you is to serve Nigerian people.
Okay, Prof, we'll definitely pick up with this conversation. Let's take this break. Platform continues shortly. Please stay tuned.
Sees that the Buhari-led administration has made remarkable progress,
like Lafia Transmission Station nearing completion.
Africa does not need charity, but partnerships that will promote the adequate investment
with the cooperation of all.
Sharing firsthand the experiences of reporters on the field as they bring to you weekly the beauty of Nigeria's diverse culture and the economic potentials therein. The Correspondents, development through the eye of the grassroots, showing every Monday at 1:30 p.m. on the network service of the NTA, with a repeat broadcast on NTA News 24 and NTA International. Join us.
Allow these children to grow.
Yes.
Many of them, you have somebody 14, 15 going to the university. Where are you going?
Information technology is the future.
Hello, warm welcome to you. This is Platform. I'm Ruth Aguela.
If you don't create that awareness and you don't bring the young minds to identify that there are benefits in astronomy.
We have had experiences through various leadership strata, bringing us to where we can.
Platform engages guests on topical issues for national interest.
We have cases like that. We ought to protect children and also make parents realize that they have a primary responsibility.
Join us every Thursday at 2 p.m. on the network service of the NTA.
Thanks for being there. The conversation is still deepening democracy through legislature. Now, Prof, you were just talking about, or rather appealing to the 10th Assembly to work hand in hand with the Institute. Would you say, legislative proceedings, the citizens are being carried along? Because it's one thing to have these bills being passed. It's not by the number, the quantity, but the quality. When these bills are passed, it's a true reflection of, what it would translate for the populace. And you also talked about the synergy between, that's for the 9th Assembly now, between the legislature and the executive. What is the synergy now, or rather, where are the citizens in all of these? Are they being carried along from your perspective based on the number of bills that have been passed, if we want to look at the past 9th Assembly?
You see, to answer that question, I'm happy you mentioned or you referred to 9th Assembly.
Yeah.
And the question, even though you will tell me, I'm here to answer the question, not you to answer the question.
You tell us.
I said, I've answered the question. I know you are going to put it back to me.
Okay.
In terms of trying to now assess whether what we have been saying as law, bills, even those one that could even be assented to, whether they are reflections of the wishes of the Nigerian people. I can tell you with all sense of responsibility that the 9th Assembly, legislation under 9th Assembly, has been, to a large extent, reflections of the aspirations and the needs of Nigerian people. I can't talk of a lot of things in the past, but under 9th Assembly that I've seen, we've seen a lot of landmark legislation. For years, people have been talking about the PIB. The people from this resource control area, the Niger Delta people, People have been talking about the revolution in the oil sector. For years, this legislation has been having issues. For the first time, we have it. People have been talking about electoral reform. We have the WISE report. We have a lot of reports that borders on electoral reform. And attempts were being made for us to get it right. People talk about e-transmission. They talk about this. They talk about that. What must be? How must you be in government? And again, you want to contest for election. You don't want to resign. Electoral, Act 2022 has addressed that one. Yeah. The ease of doing business has been taken care of by KAMA. The issue of transparency, accountability has been well addressed. Even when you talk of the anti-graft agencies, there has not been serious legal framework that give it that backing until we enter assembly. I can start counting. The point I'm making is that except for one or two instances, like an attempt to want to gouge the journalist or the press, which was resisted by the people and it was dropped, or the issue of gender that could not say true. I know you are happy hearing that one. Except for those 2 or 3 instances, most of the legislation under the Ninth Assembly, to a large extent, reflected the wishes and aspirations of Nigerian people.
Since you're talking about the wins, just before Ignatius come in, I'm glad you mentioned the gender one. Why is that being stalled?
Why is that being stopped? You should know better.
I should know better.
Yeah.
Prof, you are the one to teach us.
A lot of variables.
Okay.
It's like why is my husband taking another wife? Simple question. We have the issue of a lot of variables. We have culture. We have religion. You understand? We have tradition. The society we have is that society that gave more preponderance, leverage to men than women. And until we break that barriers, whatever you talk about the National Assembly, State Assembly, the executive, government, people in there, they are Nigerians. And they come from different cultural background. You are either Muslim or Christians. You are either Hausa or Igbos. Unless we break this cultural barrier, the gender, the search for gender, or aspiration for gender parity is going to be a tall order in this country. I'm in support of having not equality per se, but giving to women a key role in governance. People that know me very well know that I've been speaking for you people, because I was born by a woman, and most of my children are female children, and I believe we cannot get it right as a country except and unless we bring in very humane, serene, a bit, you people are more passionate than us to governance. But again, there are so many barriers that go beyond Suleiman, that go beyond Amela. We need to break that barrier. And those two leaders, they cannot impose their wish on them. So, trying to now identify or examine why this thing did not go is a case of serious academic, excursion.
The way you are analyzing the women bill, the 3 gender bills that were jettisoned by the Ninth Assembly, I will begin to think, was Prof in the chamber, was Prof in the state assemblies, but I know you are using your experience and your level of enlightenment to know why that bill did not scale through. Yes, and if you listened to Moses plenary last week, there's a gender bill that has been reintroduced. Yes, by Olujimi. But I think, Prof, your agency before 2018 was basically legislative, purely parliamentary. And then after the amendment in 2018, the need for your mandate to begin to think of grooming democracy. And I think it's a leverage that I feel that some of the obstacles your agency, your institute has been having is that some of the people that they bring for you to train are people, in quote, that are untrainable. They've passed through a wrong process of leadership recruitment. And then when they bring them to you, it's always very difficult. It's just like someone coming to somebody who's just like Prof, someone like you, bringing someone like you to a teacher and ask the person to, please, untrained prof, exactly, untrained a professor who has passed through such levels of education. Where are you going to start from? But when you bring somebody who is from a kindergarten, you groom the person. So I think the extension of your mandate to now begin to look from not only parliament. So if you have like the National Institute for the Democratic Institute, I don't know how you relate to some of these agencies, some of these, even the electoral bodies. I know that in your mandate, there's a provision, I can't really remember the act now, the particular section, there are 2 or 4 or so, where it says every election, your institute should be able to have people who monitor elections in all the senatorial and federal constituencies. I don't know if that is still, if that happened in the last assembly. If it did, what were your expectations? And if yes, what your staff monitored on the field, we are wrong. We are not, things did not go the way they should. It's a red flag for you to know the kind of people you have there. And then, before you answer that question, I want to make a recommendation. When you are trying to...
Let him answer the question first. What do you think?
You want to answer that one first, or I should put the second?
We've been talking about we're discussing the issue of induction, capacity building, the legislature, and some other thing. That is not the only mandate of the institute. That is not the only thing we are doing. Before 2017 or 2018, yes, our focus was on the legislature. But subject to the amendment of the act by, assented to by Muhammad Buhari, we now expand our mandate to cover the political party, NGOs.
Yes.
Don't forget that when we were about starting the campaign, 2022 campaigning, our institute was the first in this country that came up with a forum, a kind of conference on political communication to speak to Nigerian politicians, all the political parties. Beware of your campaigning strategy. Watch what you say. Don't overhear the policy. We are the one that convened that forum.
Yes.
Where we, with the lack of Matthew Cook and other people were present. We monitor election. From 2015, we have been monitoring and observing election. There's no election from that year that we're going to be monitoring. We have observed a lot of things. We have had interface with political parties, NGO, with CSO. We groom the younger ones. We have quiz competition on democracy. Today we have a radio station to speak on democracy. The only radio station in West Africa under the parliament. You see, you have pitched me to talk about what we are doing.
Yes, that's the idea. That's the idea.
It's not just about legislature. It's not about parliament. It's not only parliament. We are covering a lot of miles in deepening democracy, in ensuring good governance, in ensuring that we build the capacity of both informal and formal structure. Because it's not just people, whatever people in government does, you understand, or do in terms of law, in terms of policy, is a reflection or reflections of the behavior of people outside.
Exactly.
So you have to take care of people outside too. And that is the issue of leadership recruitment comes in.
Exactly.
If the electorate are not well sensitized, they are not well informed, you don't develop their political culture, they roll out characters into the system. And the character will make useless law for you. And that is why we must build the capacity of the electorate, sensitize them. The issue of primordial sentiment, the issue of religion, the issue of ethnicity, go for capacity, go for competence, go for, righteousness.
Prof, I said...
So, to answer that question, we are doing all that. You understand? In the course of observing the election, this year election, we collaborated with the Westminster Foundation of UK. And what we are looking for in the course of our election monitoring was to see the level of inclusivity of women and the underprivileged and the youth. Those are the three. We had a focus. In this 2019 general election, we want to see the level of women participation. So all our observers in the entire 36 states, besides looking at whether it's free, fair, one of the focus or the major focus is to look at the participation of the women, youths, and people with disability. to answer that question. Okay. And I don't think any agency in this country did what we did.
Okay.
So to answer the question, therefore, we look for that and we got results. And that is why when after the whole election, the result came, and we are now seeing just 3 senators, 3 female senators. Said something was wrong somewhere. Must be wrong somewhere. We just saw 15 members House of Rep. Again, when we got that, as I'm talking to you now, we are convening another conference on gender issues. That is August. NILDS, as an institute, is breaking barriers. And we are trying, where we are lacking as a people, as a country, we are trying to break that vacuum. And that is why we are not only talking about the legislature, we are looking at every actors and institutions in democracy.
This election monitoring that you just explained, especially the last one, Prof, if someone wants to pick a copy of this, your report, where can one get his hand on it? Was it published?
Of course.
Okay. For instance, someone listening to us now wants to access it.
It was published. It's on our website and that of Westminster website, which I can't remember now. Then we not only publish by saying just publish and send. We convoke another workshop of that, where it was launched and presented to the public.
Okay.
That's about 2 months ago, roughly around April.
Okay.
I've forgotten the precise date. Some of your colleagues were there to cover it. So it was not an easy thing. Okay. But you need copies. Maybe after this, I will invite you to where you can get it.
Okay, Prof, while you were talking about the whole inclusivity and the gender, the clamor for the gender participation, active participation, talking about the women, I was pleased that, yes.
I know you're happy with me.
that the Institute, is pushing, because it's about time, actually. But one other critical area that I know the Institute is also looking at is the area of unity. In the wake of this ethnicity and religious division we saw. When you mentioned the election, I just remembered. I know the Institute is planning an event, to talk about our unity, and I know the theme is democracy and the state of the nation, gender setting for the new administration. So you want to briefly tell us about that, because this is the time Nigeria needs that clamor for unity. That oneness. This is the time we should, in as much as we want to see the dividends of democracy being established, we should also remember that we are a nation that is unbreakable.
Thank you very much. As part of our mandates, which you are trying to, ensure that at least we exhaust and seem to be working for the good of our people, is we are trying to come up with a democracy lecture. June 15th.
You don't have to call the date.
No, I have to call the date. Okay. June 15th, because it's an avenue.
We're going to charge you for that.
You don't charge me because NTA is for the nation.
Okay, go ahead.
You understand? We are for the unity of the nation. So, it's on the state of the nation, setting agenda for the Tinubu government. And one of the emphases, or one of the fallback of this election, was the fragmentation, either we like it or not, that the various major political gladiators, the major presidential candidates, came from the major 3 ethnic groups. And the voting pattern, to a large extent too, reflects the geopolitical leanings and ethnic and religious pattern. It's not something we should be happy about, because we believe with June 12 election, we have gone beyond that. With a series of elections we've had from 1999 to date, we believe we have gone beyond that level. So one of the tragedy, let me put that way, of the 2019 election was that we now see a major political party leaning towards one ethnic group, for instance, leaning towards one religious group. Either we like it or not, we do respect the labor for Israel at the pattern. To a large extent too, yes, APC want to look like the former MPN. But even then, when you see what happened to PDP, where the Atiku got the bulk of his vote, is from the north. And maybe APC to a large extent could say, yeah, pick here and there, but they could not pick from the Igbo people. So there's a problem of unity. And we need to bring this country together. Regardless of, we are living today, we are talking of election today because we exist. We don't pray not to exist again. And that is why all our emphasis, all our clamor, our prayer should be on how to unite this country, because we don't have any other country than Nigeria. And that is why the coming Democracy Day lecture organized by the Institute is to address the agenda setting for Tinubu government. And one of the major issues we have to discuss is how to come up with a blueprint for this government to forge more unity among Nigerian people and cement and even pacify those people that believe they have been disenchanted or they have been alienated or they have been, marginalized, so to speak. The unity of the country is sacrosanct.
Now, you see, we're talking about the parliament. The parliament is for the people, and then we know that over time, the Nigerian parliament has been misconstrued, whether we like it or not. They are one organ of government that citizens only see from the leftist point of view. What is your institute doing to see if they can rebrand the image of the Nigerian parliament?
You see, either rebrand or no rebrand, some people have their perception. The only thing we can do to change the perception, one, is to embark on advocacy, which we have been doing. Even when parliamentarians speak, you don't want to listen. And that is why in the last 4 years, NILDS has gone beyond just a 4 walls lectures. Beyond just talking. We have been doing a lot of advocacy on how to really rebrand Nigerian legislature. Look at it, for instance. You talk of 20-something trillion as budget for the year. Out of this 20-something trillion budgeting provision, only less than 300 billion goes to the parliament. But if there's any such light on who is perceived as thieves, is the parliament. That is unfair. But the parliament, they are not speaking. But we are speaking. All of us must speak together. The journalists must join in that crusade to rebrand the parliament. We are doing our best, and we will continue to do our best. To me, even the 300 billion given to them is not enough. Going by the areas of the agencies under them, you talk of farm agency, you talk of NILDS, you talk of NABRO, you talk of the Public Complaint Commission, you talk of NAS, you talk of their aides.
Prof.
We need to change the narrative.
All right,
and the only to do that lies with you.
And that's what we're doing at the moment.
Prof, and I just want you to briefly, in a few seconds, I don't know how you're going to do that for me. Tell me your expectations for the projection of the 10th Assembly.
I expect a more unified, despite the diversity in the political parties in the House and the Senate, I expect a more unified 10th National Assembly. I expect a more serious-minded 10th National Assembly. I expect a National Assembly parliamentarians that are committed to building this country through addressing the major national crisis, insecurity, joblessness, the debt issue, the instability in our tertiary institutions, and a whole lot of issues. The commitment is there. A lot of them have the experience. They are drawn from different sectors, and I believe they will not disappoint Nigerians.
All right, let's leave it there, Prof. I know you're very passionate about what you do, and wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.
We hope to see more enhancement when it comes to capacity building. Thank you so much.
And we are doing that for you too.
I know.
Because we have something for NTA very soon.
Okay,
across the 30 states.
Yes. We'll keep our eyes on that.
That's commendable, Prof.
And that is part of the mandate of sending a mandate to the journalists.
We'll be expecting that surprise. I don't know what the package is, but we'll be expecting.
The NTA Parliament has been doing it. You're already at the third package.
All right, Ignatius Nko, our party National Assembly correspondent. Thank you so much for your time on platform.
Thank you very much.
Professor Abubakar Suleiman is the Director General for National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies. And we've been discussing deepening democracy through legislature. Yes, you have given them the mandate. It is time, talking about the legislators now, to play their role by serving you. We all have a collective role to play in building one Nigeria. I'm Ruth Aguele. Bye.